Alright, so here's my 87 Trans Am GTA. And I just thought it'd be fun to kind of walk through some of the features that this car has. I won't go into too much detail just because I've always wanted to make a fully in-depth video about it. But there's just a couple of things that I think are super cool about this car that I wanted to share with you guys. So, of course, first and foremost is the digital dash. I mean, I just think it looks totally iconic. I had heard that it was modeled in some ways after the TV series Knight Rider. Not sure on that. Maybe they drew some inspiration from Knight Rider. But in any event, if you've seen this thing at night, it absolutely looks so cool. I mean, it's got like red and orange LED, well, they're not LEDs, but backlit digital displays throughout that just looks so cool. And it's like when I pull up at a stoplight and say it's dusk and people just happen to look in because I have the T-tops off. I mean, people tell me, it's like, God, what is it that you're driving there? It looks like a starship. And I have to agree. I think it's just really visually appealing. But in any event, let's walk a little bit about. So I want to talk about the dash, and then the next thing I wanted to talk about was the engine. Because this particular run of Trans Ams from 87 to I think 92 had Pontiac's L98 motor, which is a really interesting engine for its time. I mean, it's definitely ahead technologically. It's ahead of its time for a couple of reasons. It had a complete computer management system that regulated a lot of functionality that we kind of take for granted today. And there's my son. Say hi, Jensen.
Hi.
Okay. Just things like, of course, engine temperature. I guess you could say that older cars did that as well. But, God, I wish I had the list in front of me in terms of everything that the original ODB computer control kind of watched. I just don't have that list in front of me right now, and I'm escaping me. So that's my bad. But in any event, the engine itself is impressive to look at. And I'll just show this to you real quick. Let's pull it. We're going to come around here. That's my son. Hi, Jensen.
Hello.
Do you like Trans Ams?
Yes. Wait, is the camera on?
It sure is. So let's take a look here. I'm going to come around the front. And I just reached under there. And we'll just pop this open. So that is GM's tune port injection system from 1985, 1986. And I think when I see this engine, it looks like the face hugger out of Alien. It is a really interesting looking intake, but completely, in my opinion, badass looking. And what you see here that makes this engine so interesting is these incredibly long curved runners off the air intake. And what those do is allow for a really long air charge to build up before the air gets into the pistons. And from that, it produces a lot of torque. And this engine itself, in its RPM range, is torque heavy in the lower RPMs. And so what that does is it makes it an incredibly fun stoplight to stoplight cruiser because it has a tremendous amount of power in those lower RPM registers. What it doesn't do is make it a fun canyon driver because it redlines at 5,500 RPM, which is, fairly insignificant by modern standards. So because the red line on this engine is so low, if you're familiar with how to calculate horsepower, it's a low horsepower engine. I think maybe 210 horsepower, but has 320, I think, pound-feet of torque. And so having all that torque gets you out of the hole pretty quick. Jensen, I'm talking. Kids. Anyway, so you got a lot of torque down low. That means you step on the pedal and it pins you back to the seat. It feels really good. But you're going to get dusted if you're going from 60 to 80 miles an hour. That's where horsepower really becomes important. And it's just the way this engine's designed. Doesn't have a lot of horsepower. The other thing I'll say about it is fuel economy. And a lot of those Trans Ams out of the 70s, especially the early 70s, I know that they had really good horsepower and torque figures, but they just drank gas like nobody's business. And for some people, maybe that doesn't matter, I guess, because you don't put a lot of miles on your car to begin with. It's a classic car. It's not a daily driver. But I am very impressed with the fuel economy of this particular engine. It really does a great job, and I can drive this thing all over town. I think I maybe get, 20, so, maybe city driving would be 20 miles per gallon, and maybe, highway would be 28 or something around there. But it really does, I don't know the exact number, but it's really fuel efficient. So you got a lot of things going for it. You got low end torque, which makes it stoplight to stoplight super fun. And then you got great fuel economy to boot. And of course, the intake system on this thing looks awesome. So, anytime I pop the hood, people come by and they're like, wow, that thing is, what the heck is that thing? I've never seen an engine that looks like that. So I'm a fan, and of course, as engine technology evolved, things got better. I mean, all the way up to the LS1 in the late '90s at the end of the Trans Am run. No question, those are better performing engines that toast this thing, as it should, right? You've got technology that had, sort of evolved over the next 10 years, and so yeah, I would expect it to be a better performing engine. But for me, this thing is a lot of fun, and I've got nothing but good things to say about GM's L98. And this is the 5.7. If you're not familiar with the engine codes, this is the 5.7 liter Pontiac engine, GM engine that was put into Trans Ams and IROCs and other third generation models. Also in the Corvette, although there's some differences that I won't get into. They're subtle between the L98 engine that got put into the Camaros and the Firebirds versus the ones that went into the Corvette. Just subtle differences. So anyway, let's get back to the car itself. We're going to come around here, and I'm just going to take my key and I'm going to pop it right in here. And I'm going to fire this bad boy up, or Bad Johnny, however you like to say. Put my blinkers on. And so that's the digital display. And like I said, I want to make a video of everything that this thing tells you, because the computer management system by today's standards is pretty primitive, but it's cool for its time. And there's some neat things that this thing will tell you about the car itself when you just come in here and push some of these different buttons. So I'll save that for a future video. But yeah, this is just a neat looking display, and I thought it was really well laid out. And when you're sitting in the driver's seat right here, everything is very simple to see. So ergonomically, I think Pontiac did a fantastic job designing this dash and really laying everything out to where you can touch any button you need to touch. You can see visually what's going on. And so yeah, the dynamics, the driving dynamics, in my opinion, for a car that's 36 years old now, it's absolutely first rate. Just first rate, Underrated, I think it would be a better word to use. So what else can I tell you real quick? This particular car has T-tops. It's my son. That were retrofitted by a company called Cars and Concepts. And I know a lot of people prefer factory T-tops, but I'm here to tell you that the design that Cars and Concepts came up with, I'm going to shut this down so you can hear me a little bit better, is unquestionably superior to the factory T-tops. And it has to do with what Cars and Concepts came up with to improve the structural rigidity of the car. Because anytime you cut into the roof line, you're going to lose rigidity, and what you're going to gain, unfortunately, is chassis flex. So, there's kind of a common thing that people always say that third generation F-bodies are just like a wet noodle, right? They just flex. And that's true, and it's especially true when you cut into the roof. But Cars and Concepts did a pretty good job with this. They put down this center, hard to kind of see right here, but this center channel right here is all a thick brace. And so you're bracing here on the front end, and then you're bracing all the way back on here on the back. And so, I think it's an improvement over Pontiac's design, just because they really tried to brace this thing well and minimize the amount of chassis flex that you would get when you cut out the roof. The other thing I like about Cars and Concepts T-tops is I think they look better. Like, what they did here is they put the headliner, and the headliner tucks up underneath this black strip that goes all the way around. And I think it just looks neater and cleaner than what Pontiac came up with. You can see up under here, right here, just looks real nice and clean. And that's a testament to Cars and Concepts, their engineers, and the people that they had working for them at that time. And by the way, you should research that company because they really did more than just T-top conversions. Like they did convertibles, all kinds of things back in like the 80s and I think into the early 90s. Unfortunately, before they went out of business. But it's a great company and they did a great job. And so I have no qualms with having a retrofitted T-top from Cars and Concepts put into this vehicle. There's my son. What do you think, Jensen?
Cool.
All right. What else can I tell you real quick? Coming around the back, you have this huge glass piece that goes along from side to side as part of the hatch, and it's super duper heavy, so I feel sorry for anybody that actually were to break this. I mean, good luck trying to find another one. Forget it. What you see back here are the T-tops themselves. Maybe you can notice them as I peer in through. Those are the... Yeah, it's hot. It's definitely a hot day. Those are the T-top bags, and of course I got them in there right now. Coming along this side of the vehicle, you get a sense the seat design is really cool. So let me tell you one more thing about the 87. If you look really close at the fabric, Pontiac used like this kind of triangular pattern, and they only used it on the 87. And I think it looks great. Like, you know, the 88 fabric and 89 and everything that followed up to 92, it looks okay, but the 87 was special, in my opinion, about this fabric design. Like, take a look at that. As I work my way down the seat, it just looks really, 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 really cool. Uh-oh, we got a new driver here. What do you think you're doing? Having fun. So we talked about the seat fabric. By the way, these are custom mats that I had made. I just like the Firebird logo, so I went ahead and had those put in. I wouldn't say custom mats. I ordered them off a website. I'm trying to remember who made them. Lloyd, I think. Lloyd made those mats. And I just opted to get the Firebird logo put in on them.
Lloyd's a character from Ninjago.
From Ninjago?
Yes, it is a Lego movie.
His name is Lloyd?
Yes, he is the Green Ninja.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so what else? I mean, it's kind of hard for me to get around. The car's parked in the garage. Thinking of taking it to a car show this evening. We'll see if that actually happens. I was going to bring my son. You want to go to a car show tonight?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't sound too excited. So yeah, I mean, there's more that I want to tell you about this car, but that'll do it for now. And I hope you guys enjoyed this and I didn't bore you to tears. Oh, Jensen, don't play with those. See, you got these rotary dials. And of course, every kid wants to go spin and play with everything that they can. So no touchy.
Please do not call me a kid.
Well, I don't know what else to call you. You're 6 years old.
Literally, I think I'm half a teenager.
You won't be a teenager for like another 7 years or so. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. You guys have a great day and yeah, enjoy the rest of your